His Majesty's standard had barely reached half-mast over Buckingham Palace when a second thunderclap struck the House of Windsor. Prince Harry, calling from California at 2:30 in the morning London time, asked his father to underwrite a £20 million emergency settlement that, he argued, would clear outstanding security liabilities, silence looming lawsuits and pave a dignified path back to Britain. For a family already reeling from King Charles III's sudden hospitalization, serious complications following aggressive anti-cancer therapy, the timing felt less like a plea than a provocation. Within hours the story leaked, the British press erupted, and palace switchboards lit up with equal parts sympathy and fury. What followed was an astonishing 48 hours in which Crown and Country watched two future kings, Charles, frail but fiercely conscious, and William, forced to shoulder the realm, decide whether the prodigal son would be welcomed home or written out of the script entirely. Readers, brace yourselves. What you are about to discover lifts the velvet curtain on frantic bedside conclaves, whispered sibling negotiations, and the single, steel-edged ultimatum that now stands between Prince Harry and any hope of a royal rebirth. Word of the king's collapse reached Clarence House shortly after dawn. Chemotherapy, doctors said, had triggered a cascade of metabolic shocks. The monarch's blood pressure dropped, his heart rhythm skewed, and only immediate hospital intervention averted catastrophe. Within minutes Queen Camilla and Prince William were racing to his side. Within an hour the palace announced a full cancellation of engagements and activated Operation Deerhurst, the contingency plan governing sudden incapacity of the sovereign. Across the Atlantic, insomnia and news alerts jolted Harry awake. According to Montecito sources, he read the bulletin twice, paced the kitchen, then opened a secure video link arranged months earlier for family emergencies. The visual of his father, pale, oxygen cannula in place, yet still straight-spined in a hospital armchair, knocked the wind from him. They spoke for 18 minutes. Witnesses described tears on both screens, affectionate humor, and, near the end, Harry's halting explanation that he had a practical proposal which could protect the monarchy from further tabloid damage and let him, Meghan and the children spend extended time in the UK without being a financial burden. Charles promised nothing, deferring to your brother and the Privy Council. It was 5:11 and the King's cardiologist was insisting on rest. 3 hours later the Duke's private secretary dispatched a formal note. Harry would relinquish residual Sussex commercial branding, shut down lingering legal actions, and cease media commentary if the Crown covered a £20 million package of security settlements, tax penalties, and charity restructuring fees that had ballooned since Megxit. The memo framed the sum as debt repayment for services originally undertaken at Her Majesty's request. When William read the line he reportedly exhaled one word: unbelievable. Friends say the Prince of Wales has always separated Harry my brother from Harry the wildcard brand. But with his father hospitalized and constitutional duties landing on his shoulders, emotion ceded to calculus. Advisors marshaled spreadsheets, the sovereign grant, already under public pressure, the cost of Charles's treatment, the looming coronation of William's own reign. And then there was trust, shattered by memoir, podcast, and documentary. By midnight the future king drafted terms. They were forensic, unflinching, and beyond even seasoned courtiers' expectations. Permanent resignation of all royal styles and titles. No Duke of Sussex, no Her Royal Highness, no ceremonial precedence, effectively a civilian identity. Full financial independence. Every penny of the requested £20 million to be repaid personally, over time, without public or Crown funds. Severance from royal-branded philanthropy. Harry might champion any cause, but Invictus Games and related foundations would transition to palace trustees until audited and relicensed. No media memoir, interview, or documentary referencing private royal conversations for 10 years. A gag order, blunt but legally watertight. Family first, cameras last. Any UK residency to be on private property, no taxpayer-funded security unless formally requested by Metropolitan Police under existing threat protocols. William emailed the document to Clarence House, copied to the King's private secretary. 20 minutes later Charles scribbled a single sentence on the printout: I defer to the wisdom of the Prince of Wales. His shaky signature made the decision effectively sovereign. That same night the proposal reached California. Initial reaction from Harry's camp, insiders claim, was disbelief tinged with anger. "They're disowning me unless I crawl," he reportedly said, followed by frantic calls to legal and PR advisors. Meghan, ever strategic, is said to have urged renegotiation, warning that accepting would erase any platform to speak truth later, while refusal risked public condemnation for abandoning a sick father. Yet public sentiment was already crystallizing. Morning radio phones in ran hot. "We pay enough, let him earn like the rest of us," barked a Leeds lorry driver. "He's still our soldier prince, help him reset," pleaded an elderly war widow. Tabloid headlines screamed Harry's 20 million gambit, while broadsheets asked whether this was the moment the monarchy modernized or cannibalized itself. Inside the royal hospital suite, a quieter drama played out. Princess Anne arrived straight from a cancelled naval inspection, uniform still creased, and told William she would shoulder any public-facing duty he needed while he navigated that business. Catherine joined later with a stack of briefing folders and sandwiches nobody touched. At 3 o'clock she and Anne drafted a contingency rota: garden parties, investitures, military patronages, every task their father-in-law might miss in coming weeks. "Hold the centre," Anne muttered, quoting their late mother. The following afternoon William returned to the hospital intensive ward. Charles, conscious but exhausted, gestured for privacy. According to an eyewitness, William knelt beside the bed, explained the ultimatum, and waited. The king closed his eyes a long time, then murmured, "If it saves him and the crown, so be it." He squeezed his son's hand, adding a proverb quoted from the King James Bible, "Set thine house in order." Word of royal unity spread quickly. Financial markets, jittery earlier in the week, steadied. The pound ticked upward. Yet the Sussex camp remained silent, fueling speculation. 3 days later Montecito released a 102-word statement. Harry values his family's concern, recognizes current constraints, and will respond after appropriate consideration. Not a rejection, but no acceptance. Meanwhile, the hospital discharged Charles into home convalescence. Cameras captured him pale, smiling thinly, waving from an electric Range Rover beside Queen Camilla. Behind, William and Catherine's car followed, George visible through the window clutching a get-well drawing. The optics were unmistakable. The heirs were ready, the crown, though bruised, endured, the wayward prince absent. Palace staff report the king now spends mornings with personal papers, afternoons resting, and evenings in short family meetings to review the state dispatch box. The £20 million question hangs in the air like incense. Some advisors believe Harry will ultimately accept William's terms, surrender titles, and rebuild quietly through private ventures. Others predict a dramatic public refusal, positioning the Duke as a martyr to palace control. What is clear, William will not yield. His language, sources say, is resolute. The monarchy cannot fund or facilitate commercialized grievance. And Charles, while heartbroken, has aligned behind his eldest, knowing, perhaps, that any wavering would fracture rather than mend. Beyond the palace walls, the British public processes twin realities: a beloved but embattled king fighting illness, and a monarchy undergoing its most ruthless house-cleaning since Edward VIII's abdication. Polling shows 68% support William's stance. Even traditional Sussex sympathizers admit the sum requested doesn't pass the smell test. Yet sympathy for Harry the son, watching his father's health decline from 5,000 miles away, remains palpable. The days ahead will decide legacies. If Prince Harry swallows pride, returns as Mr. Henry Charles Albert David, private citizen, perhaps a dutiful if low-profile charity ambassador under his brother's watchful eye, history may mark this as the moment the House of Windsor proved flexible enough to survive 21st-century scandal. If he refuses, insisting on royal treatment without royal discipline, the break could become permanent, leaving future children of Sussex to wonder what role they might have played inside the world's most famous family. One thing, however, is no longer in doubt: cancer has made Charles mortal in the eyes of a nation, and mortality has made William the implacable steward of a 1,000-year institution. Tradition will endure, but only on terms that tighten the drawbridge against those who mistake bloodlines for blank checks. And so Britain watches, breath held, as two brothers weigh love against legacy, loyalty against liberty, and the price measured not simply in pounds sterling, but in titles surrendered, futures rewritten, and the fragile health of a king who longs to see his sons reconciled while time and treatment permit.